Hello, I'm Pastor Jeremy Combs, and we're going to pause for a proverb. Let's go. Proverbs chapter 6, and we're going to look at verse 32 one more time, an additional thought from last time. Verse 32 says, "But whoso committeth adultery with a woman lacketh understanding. He that doeth it destroyeth his own soul." These are heavy verses in Proverbs. Adultery is a heavy and a heartbreaking sin. Sin affects us physically, spiritually, and it also affects us emotionally. Physically, adultery can lead to disease and defilement of the purity God's given us. It also affects us mentally. Here's a woman committing adultery, and she will abandon her little children at home for that affair. A man in a rage picks up a gun and murders someone to get even. Then there is the side of immorality we often forget. We think about the physical, the emotional, or mental, but we forget about the spiritual. When I was a teenager, an evangelist told us at youth camp that every time we are immoral, it destroys part of our spiritual soul. We don't hear preaching like that today. Now, let me be clear, you don't lose your salvation. Instead, we grow indifferent and distant to the things of God. All sin does this, but adultery seems to be more severe. Sin is the great separator, so let us refuse to let sin destroy any part of our walk with God. Verse 33 continues the theme: "A wound and dishonor shall he get, and his reproach shall not be wiped away." Solomon continues to warn us about these dangers of immorality, specifically adultery. Like with all sin, there is forgiveness, but also with like all sin, there always will remain consequences. Adultery is a thoroughly contaminating sin. It engulfs the body, the mind, and even the soul, as we have just discussed. It brings a wound and dishonor. According to this verse, it appears that the wound can heal over time, which should encourage anybody who has fallen into this snare. But the reproach or the shame, it will never be wiped away. You know, your purity is a valuable gift. It is to be given, like anything else, with soberness and sacredness in the sight of both God and man. When someone gives their purity away flippantly or frequently, it brings a shame that they often will carry to the grave. I remember hearing a pastor preach about this, and somebody incensed came to his office and said, I don't, how could you preach something like that? And I don't agree with you. And he said, I asked her one question. He said, I asked her, have you been immoral in the past? And he said, immediately she lowered her head like this. And he said, what are you doing? She said, what do you mean? He said, well, you just lowered your head down. And she said, well, Pastor, that's something in the past that I'm kind of ashamed of. And he said, that's exactly what the Bible is talking about. It's not that you're not forgiven. It's not that you can't move on, but there's always that regret, that remorse. God forgives repentant sinners no matter what it is they've done. But again, often the embarrassment, guilt, and there's always the great what if. Many older believers look back with deep regret over their past indiscretions, and they would give and do anything to have them back again. So that's why Proverbs drums home to us: keep your heart with all diligence. Let's look at one more verse, verse number 34. "For jealousy is the rage of a man, therefore he will not spare in the day of vengeance." Envy is often the driving factor in adultery. Rather than rejoicing with the wife of your youth, like we've already been commanded to do so in Proverbs, a man begins to look at another man's wife and desires to have something he feels that maybe his wife is lacking. A wife may feel that another man understands her more. This is just envy dressed up in the disguise of reason. Another vice that runs with this same pack of envy and lust and immorality is jealousy. Now, jealousy, normally we put that to the back of the pack as the race against sin begins, but in fact, we don't even consider it a viable threat. But the vices of jealousy have a stamina like none of the others. Envy and even immorality have strong impulses, but they often will fade away over time. Jealousy, on the other hand, is long lasting and never seems to quit. Jealousy is the rage of a man. Rage in Hebrew has the idea of an intense fire or even a poison. It's so intense that no compassion is possible when that wrong needs to be settled. Immorality brings violence, and that rage not only poisons those around, but it often contaminates the one who is holding it as well. Wow, some heavy verses. Keep your heart today.